Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time being here, thank you so much for being here. My team and I thank you. My purpose with this channel is to help you move beyond your human confinement, to help you begin to embody that which some people call God, although the word God has a lot of ick around. But essentially, my job as Joanna is to help you merge with your own godliness. And the higher consciousness that I connect with gives me information in order to help us all experience the source within us. We are not here to play small. We are not here to fit in boxes. We are not here to manage other people's pain or emotions. Of course, if you're a doctor, you're going to manage somebody else's pain, but that's not what I mean. We are all here to be sovereign beings. And if you are watching this, then chances are that this is what you are seeking as well. And I hope that the information that you hear here will help you to merge with your own godliness so that you can experience the God within you, not just to know it, but to actually experience. And to experience godliness within you is nothing more and nothing less than activating an old cell memory, because apparently your body knows it is charged with frequency that is familiar with source's frequency. So it's like your body genetically knows that it's part of source, but we don't remember. So my job, if you will, is to help you remember why you're here, what you are here to experience, what you are experiencing in the moment, and hopefully help you make some sense of it so that you yourself can become a more sovereign being. And I actually had to look up the meaning of sovereign being, but I'm going to let you do that. So with that said, if you would like to share this information with other people who you feel this will benefit, or they will benefit from, my team and I would be very grateful for you to pass it along. So whatever I say in this transmission is meant to be for you at some point in your time. However, I do ask you that you don't take anything I say as the truth, but be open to what is coming, and more so than intellectually experiencing this transmission, allow yourself for this transmission to be experienced by your body, because your body remembers. There is encoded memory in my voice and in the words and the way the sentences are structured, that this energy is going straight into your energetic body to help you remember. I don't know exactly how that works. That's beyond my pay grade, but I would invite you to listen to this, not so much with your ear and your intellect, but with your heart and with an open mind, and then see what comes up for you. If you are returning, thank you again so much for being here. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't do what I do. And I personally love connecting back to source because, well, let's just say when I'm in this source energy, I literally feel invincible, which I guess is true on some level. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. So I've asked that this video be shared with those who are meant to hear it because of whatever there's going on in their journey right now. So if you are hearing this, then there's likely something in this transmission that's going to help you, quote unquote, figure out what the heck is going on. And the statement that I receive from my team is to fully see yourself is to literally obliterate the ego self. So basically what it says is that to fully see yourself, you have to go through a process of what's commonly called the ego death. And ego death often happens when we begin to confront our shadows. So likely you are in a space somewhere in your life where you are needing to confront your own shadows. There was something that I said in my last video, and it was something to the effect: shadows give us depth, and shadows give us depth. In other words, shadows give our human experience depth. And there's another word, depth. There's another word that they said, depth, and anyway, but at least depth. So don't be afraid of facing your shadows. Your shadow has a tremendous amount of energy stored within it. And when you face your shadow, that energy expands. In other words, facing your own shadows allows you to embody the more power for you. And as long as we give power to our shadows, we're now going to be able to experience what is beyond our shadows. And right now, as human race, we are moving towards living in a space relatively free of shadows. Now, shadows are always based in fear. Does that mean we will not have any fear? No, and that would actually not be a good thing. We need certain level of fear in order to survive and to protect ourselves from premature dying, okay? But it's the other 95% of fear that we humans are attached to, which make us feel small, which make us feel unworthy, which make us feel invisible or unlovable. Those are the shadows that don't allow us to be in the embodiment of what I said earlier was God or God's self or source. So in order to experience the source within you, which is, let's talk about source. Some call it God. God cannot be intellectually understood. It will never happen. Never, 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 never going to happen. Here's why. We're trying to understand something that is unlimited with a mechanism that is limited, which is the human mind and the human intellect. So the human intellect cannot possibly understand what source is. However, we can experience it. Once you have experienced source, you'll never go back. When you experience source, you ultimately experience your own unlimited freedom. I'm going to let that sink in. When you experience source, you essentially experience your own unlimited freedom, your unlimitedness, which makes the ego go, oh, shit, because ego is all about limitation. It's neither good nor bad. Ego serves a purpose. It is a flavor, if you will, that you experience while in this human body. But too much attachment to ego prevents us from fully experiencing inner source or God. If the word God triggers you, I'm totally with you. I don't really like the word God because there's just so much shit around it. God, no pun intended. So, God cannot be intellectually understood. It will never happen. So if you're trying to understand God, forget it. Never going to happen. Just stop trying. Never going to happen. Allow yourself to be in presence of God. And then you'll know what God is. And I said, allow yourself to be in the presence of. So let's talk about the word allow. If we are not experiencing that presence now, we are not allowing ourselves to experience it. And that's because source is within us. We're already that. No way around it. Source is everything and everywhere, all at once. It's not a person sitting on a throne or some bird flying around or some cow, which, by the way, those are all symbols for what some people call God. God cannot be understood by the rational mind. It will never happen. So going back to the allowing, to allow ourselves to feel God within, we have to shed that which tells us we are not part of source and somehow that source is outside of us or God is outside of us. It can't be, because it's everywhere. It's in front of you, behind you, inside of you, outside of you, in your ears, out your ears, in your hair, in your nails, in the grass, in the bird, in the I don't know, in the mouse. It is virtually, there is nothing that source is not. Let your mind try to figure that out. So let's not try to understand God, because it'll never happen. Instead, let's allow ourselves to experience source or God. And in order to do that, we have to shed the old layers that are rooted in fear. Okay? When someone says you should fear God, they're basically saying you should fear yourself. Why on earth would you want to fear yourself? How does that make any sense? But it is said, and said quite often, that what humans fear the most is, in fact, their true power. And that's because next to the ego, your power is immense, whereas your ego is very limited. So when the ego realizes that it is not in control and it is actually not very big, it loses its impact the ego has on you. And I'm going to ask them to say it in a different way, in a slightly different way. Essentially, what happens is when you meet yourself, which is part of source, when you meet that true you, your entire identity of what you thought you were goes down the chest. The ego literally gets obliterated. And that is not a fun process. I will be the first one to tell you that. But going back to why you are listening to this video, you are likely in this process right now becoming more aware of your true identity, not the identity you cling to, like we all do, but your true identity. And as this happens, you're being stretched. And you're being stretched because we are going through a massive energetic upgrade and what is called a soul refinement. So when I looked up what is soul refinement, it refers to the process of purifying and improving the character, inner self and spiritual state of an individual. It involves developing virtues, reducing negative tendencies, and cultivating a closer connection with a higher power or spiritual reality. Essentially, it is a journey of self-improvement aimed at achieving a more enlightened and virtuous state of being. So we are all in this boat. And it's a very big boat, has many people in it. And even though we are on the same boat, we are all at different places. We are all on our individual journey, even though we're all heading in the same direction. This is what you might be experiencing right about now. Feeling lost, feeling disoriented, feeling disconnected, feeling in limbo. Those are all basically side effects of you being energetically stretched. You're stretching. And every time you stretch, you stretch. Think of a pizza. If you stretch a pizza dough too fast, it's going to break, right? So you have to gently pull and gently stretch until it becomes bigger. We are sort of like that. If we were to wake up tomorrow morning and have a complete forgetfulness of who we were the day prior, we would feel absolutely terrified, because it would be extremely confusing. And that would be a massive ego death overnight. That is too much for the average person to handle from the perspective of energy. Because when we go through ego, it's not that we're dying. Part of us is dying. We are detaching from what we once thought was real to us. And if we detach too quickly what is real for us, we would be extremely scared and confused. And that is too much for the nervous system, energetically speaking. So because it's a process and it takes time, and apparently this process of refining a soul takes lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. But currently, we are in a much faster process of becoming more enlightened, if I could say that word. Let's say a soul to go through this process, something that would have taken thousands of generations or lifetimes, now is taking place over few generations. So we are moving, even though it's a process, we are moving through it very, very fast. And because of it, there is a lot of people who are experiencing a lot of confusion, because there will be a moment in everyone's life when they are presented with this other reality that wasn't before available to them. And all of a sudden, they have this experience where they are experiencing two realities both at the same time. Now, think about it for a second. You're living here all the time, and all of a sudden, you become aware of this other reality. And your ego goes, oh, shit, which one is real? Here's the thing. They're both real. One is the illusion of being real, and one is the actual real. I don't know how to explain it any other way, but I'm assuming it's going to somehow give you a message. So this is likely why you're feeling lost and confused and disconnected and in limbo, because you are being stretched. The stretch is meant to eventually help us all break away from the ego's prison. It is the ego that makes us feel small or makes us believe that we are small. You are so big. Your ego stands no chance of surviving. But the true you has no need to control. There's no need. Your ego does. Our ego does. There's nothing wrong with control. But if there's too much control, it becomes too rigid. And when things are rigid, they're actually not very stable. Something that's solid yet flexible, that's a much stronger foundation. You also, one of the things that you might be experiencing right now is a lot of resistance. Resistance looking at your shadows, resistance looking at your relationships, resistance looking at the choices that you are making, resistance to doing what you know you have to do, perhaps resistance to knowing the truth. There's a lot of resistance right now. And that's because beyond this resistance is another level of awareness. But once we move into this other level of awareness, we have to let go of what we have previously thought as true and real. This process is identified as ego death. Ego death simply means a part of you is dying. It's an old, outdated system of your ego structure that's dying, and you're not losing it per se, you are transforming it. So ego death is a process of transformation. When we go through ego death, we're going through a process of transforming. So transforming means something is transformed into something new. It doesn't disappear, the old is transformed. So we are in the process of massive transformation and reconfiguration. What does it mean to reconfigure? To go back to what once was, is, that we had a conscious memory of where we come from, who we are, how much we're capable of, and how powerful. This is where we're all heading. So your identity is probably shedding. And the reason for that is because your soul wants to lead. We want to lead from the heart. Doesn't mean we bypass the intellect. We need it in our human body. But we move more into focusing on the heart as the center for information. Okay. And it has been said, I don't know who said it, but it's common knowledge that the heart is the second brain. Actually, they say also the stomach is, but the heart actually is way more intelligent than the human mind, way more intelligent. So we are, by transforming, we are naturally shifting into beings that are much more tapped into their infinite intelligence. Because we all carry infinite intelligence within, but that is beyond our human-made concept. So in order to tap into this divine authority, we have to shed that which is limiting to us. Our old belief systems, our old limiting structures, our old ways of seeing ourselves, our old ways of being. And this is called the process of letting go. We are all in the process of letting go of the old so that we can experience the new. Not just know that the new is coming, but to actually experience the new. Like I was saying earlier, most of you who are listening to this already know that you are part of God, sources within you, yada, yada, yada. Most of you know that, right? Probably all of it. To know it and to actually go through the experience of it, completely different. And I'm sure maybe many of you have experienced this. Once you have experienced God, source, and what it is and what isn't, there's no amount of rational reasoning that can help explain to someone what that is. It's impossible. It has to be experienced. And again, to experience that is very scary. It's liberating for the soul, but it's crushing for the ego. Okay, so if you're going through your own ego death process, you're probably not feeling so great about yourself. That's very normal. It's very expected. You are losing your identity. And what does it mean to lose your identity? To no longer let your ego control you. Have your ego. Ego is important, gives you a perspective from an ego's experience, but your ego doesn't own you. For most people, we are so attached to our ego that we don't even realize that our ego is in control of us. Okay, so I have an ego, you have an ego. So if there is this I having an ego, what is that? What is the thing that has an ego? Which means I'm not the ego, neither are you. So if you are not the ego, which you're not, who are you? Whatever you want to define that as, that's up to you. You are being prepared to lead, not by perfection, but by presence. This is talking about basically embodying more of your light. To embody more of your light simply means to embody more of your true nature. Not is not the one that's conditioned by society. It's your true nature. Your true nature is one of divinity. You are a divine being. It has nothing to do with religion of any kind. Religion is not good. It's not bad. It does its best. And some not. But anyway, it has nothing to do with religion. If the word divine freaks you out, call it something else. You are part of that which created galaxies, which created everything in existence. You are part of that. That thing that I just talked to you about, inside of you. That's crushing to the ego. So don't be afraid going through this crushing of an ego process, because on the other side of this crushing the ego is tremendous level of expansion, something that's beyond what you can even think and comprehend, because your thinking and your comprehension is very much tied to your identity or ego. Okay? What does it mean to let go of the ego? Well, first and foremost, it's to realize that you have an ego. You are not the ego itself. You have an ego. Ego is a concept. Okay. So you basically adopt a concept about yourselves. And for most people, they believe they are. However, if you identify with you being the concept, then you become that concept. If you carry a concept about you, for example, that I am not worthy, and you embody that concept and say to yourself, that is now me, becomes a part of you, then you become the person experiencing not being worthy. You are experiencing the concept you have held about yourself. How does that come into your mind? Whatever label you hold about yourself, you are beyond the label. If you choose to call yourself this or that, or if you choose to label yourself this way or that way, especially in limiting ways, that's up to you. But at least do it from a conscious mind. Do it from the space that you know that you are not your ego. However, for most of us, ego has owned us, which means if ego owns us because we identify with the ego, then the ego is in control of us. Why would you want your ego to be in control of you when you are so much more powerful than your ego? Notice what comes to your mind when I say this. If you have any grief that you feel, consider it as something sacred. It's the death of what no longer fits your vibration. You might be grieving old relationships. You might be grieving old jobs. You might be grieving a former aspect of yourself that you realize is no longer serving you. Oftentimes, when we let go of something that we were holding on to, there is a moment of confusion where we go, who am I without this thing that I identified as? For example, if you identify yourself as a smart person, just as an example, who are you beyond that? If you are not smart, then who are you? And that's scary for a lot of people because we identify with things. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that. It's not about right or wrong. It's about, do we choose to identify with a limited ego? Do we choose to be controlled by the limiting ego? Or do we choose to be sovereign beings, embodying our much more conscious, higher awareness and embodying our truth, which is tied to the fact that we are amazingly powerful beings? Now, just because we're amazingly powerful beings doesn't necessarily mean we can grow wings in this physical body, because that's not what we're designed to do, to be in a physical body with wings. Humans don't have wings, generally speaking. Okay? So as you go through this process of ego dying, your mind is expanding. It's moving beyond its little limited boxes, letting go of your smallness, letting go of your limitations, especially perceived limitations. I can't do this because I'm not good enough. Says who? You may not be good enough for building the airplane, but that's not your skill. You're not here to build airplanes unless you are. So it's identifying less with the ego, which then leads to not being as much controlled by the ego. Ego structure is based on survival and fear. There's a lot of fear in the ego. So when we are controlled by our ego, we are also being controlled by fear. Again, nothing wrong with fear. We need it. We need a certain level of fear, a certain amount of fear, but too much fear is like too much salt and pepper on your steak if you're into that sort of thing. So don't be afraid of what is becoming. The more you shed, the more you release, the more you let go, the more you are becoming more of the true you, which is ultimately what we all want. I have never in my life met one person, especially a client, who says, hey, Joanna, help me be less powerful or help me feel less powerful. Never happened. Everybody wants it. Here's the irony. Everybody wants it, but everyone already has it. They're just not able to see it because of their own limited views of themselves. So as you go through this ego dying process, you are virtually transforming into someone new. But it's not that you're transforming into someone new. You are beginning to remember what always was and always will be. Again, that you are part of infinite source, which cannot be defined by the human brain. It will never happen, but it can be experienced. Okay. So I get tremendous joy from channeling this information because I know what it feels to experience God. I have experienced it on few occasions, and it is something I cannot put into words. It cannot be possibly put into words. It's just impossible. And it's something that both terrified me and elated me at the same time. That's because when I experienced Source, my entire ego went to shit in a second flat. I was very confused, yet at the same time, I was aware that I was remembering. It was a moment of, and then at the same time, the moment of course. So at the same time that my ego crashed, I had the awareness of remembering what Source is. I'll never forget that. It was the most defining moment of my life. My life changed completely from that moment forward. I still have an ego, yada, 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 but my entire understanding of life and just existence completely changed. And that's something I cannot explain to you. I cannot give it to you. I cannot share it with you. The only thing I can do, and I hope I'm doing it at least half successfully, the only thing that I can do is I can channel information that is woven with a certain frequency, and this higher information is going to go right into your energetic field to help you remember so that you too can have this experience of experiencing Source within you, because there is nothing like it. There is nothing like it. To be so unconditionally loved is actually painful at first. I've said this before a few times, and I think some of you have said that you've experienced this. So, long story short, these transmissions are designed to help you remember so that you too can experience Source within yourself, so that you can remember your unlimitedness while you are having a very real experience of having a human existence. You are both at once. You are both limited because of the humanness, which is very real, but you're also unlimited at the same time. And you cannot square those two. The only option you have is to believe only one or to hold those two truths at the same time. That's the balancing act. And I believe that's the difference between the 3D world, or experience a 3D world, and experiencing a 5D world. I believe that's what the difference is. In the quote unquote 5D higher vibration, we have more of the knowing of the truth of what God is, what God isn't, and that Source or God is within us. We are much more aware of that. And we're also humans that are having pain and troubles and challenges and wars, and very difficult to square those two. But in the fifth dimension, we are much more in the presence of our own oneness. So we are both experiencing oneness while we live in 3D world, which is very much about separation. We're both at the same time. And to juggle the two is a juggling process. Not necessarily very easy, because the 3D world is very heavy, vibrationally very heavy, and 5D is very light. So we have to hold a lot of light in the 5D to not be pulled into the 3D denseness. But the more light we hold, the less we are weighed down by this 3D human experience. We still have our human experience, but we are less weighed down by it. And therefore, we have a completely different experience of what life is like. So with that said, I hope this was helpful. I would love for you to comment down below how this information, how this transmission, how this energy resonated with you. Let me know if there is anything that was said that triggered you in some way, because those are key components to kind of look into. Triggers are wonderful. I love working with triggers. And just let me know if any of this on some level made you pause and maybe made you remember. That's always my hope, and that's always my intention, that whatever I bring through me for you has an effect of you remembering who you truly are and what your true purpose is. And your true purpose is to simply show up in love. Not always that easy, is it? So thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing your comments, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, of course, if you would like help with your transition and you would like me and my team to help you with that process, I would absolutely be honored to do that. So until then, see you soon.